I'm going to share a scary story I wrote called Terror on Witch's Way. Amanda Keaton left her house just before midnight to pick up her mother, Linda, from work. Linda was a projectionist at the local AMC theater. E.T. the Extraterrestrial was playing to packed audiences that Halloween night. Darkness normally didn't bother Amanda, but something about that night didn't feel right. Something was off about it. She nearly jumped out of her Pumas when lightning struck a tree in her backyard. Thunder pounded the sky like a poltergeist. Leaves fell from trees faster than rain from the sky. When she got into her mother's station wagon, she caught the sour stench of alcohol. It wasn't overpowering, but enough to make her wonder if someone were drinking inside the car. Since they never locked the doors, it could have been anybody. The theater was 10 miles away. To get there, Amanda had to drive down the dark and winding Witch's Way road. The road was surrounded by spooky dead branches on both sides. The only visibility was from speckles of moonlight and passing high beams. Not many people took the route at that hour. The dangerous curves in the road have taken over 50 lives since its inception. Some people even reported seeing ghosts on the hills. And with the satanic panic in full swing, others were afraid of going anywhere at night for fear of being sacrificed in some violent, bloody ritual. As she drove, she kept smelling alcohol. Even when she rolled down the window, it wouldn't go away. Eventually, she'd have to stop somewhere and clean it up. When she got about 2 miles down the road, a van came speeding up behind her. The driver drove so close, he nearly rear-ended the station wagon. First, he flashed his bright headlights at her. This lasted for a couple minutes, long enough to nearly blind her. Then he began wildly honking his horn. The horn sounded metallic, like nothing she had ever heard before. The best way to describe it would be otherworldly. She thought he wanted to pass, so she waved him along. Obviously, he didn't get the hint, because he kept on honking and blinking his headlights. What was his problem? She sped up to get away from him. The twists and turns got more and more dangerous the faster she went. If he was some psycho Satanist, she'd outrun him before he caught up with her. She wasn't going to have her skull power drilled or her head chopped off with an axe. When she sped up more, so did he. He almost drove up next to her, but backed off when an oncoming car nearly caused a head-on collision. In the meantime, he kept honking, but Amanda tried her hardest to ignore him. When he nudged her rear bumper, she knew she couldn't brush him off by speeding up. Suddenly, it wasn't road rage anymore. Whoever it was, he was scaring her. She reasoned that he was the one that spilt beer in her mother's car. She'd never seen him before. A black windowless van with rusty old license plates would have stuck out in her neighborhood like Brooke Shields at an arcade. Whoever it was, he gave her serial killer vibes. So she did what any scared teenage girl would do. She sped up again. This time she was going 55 miles per hour. 40 was the limit. If a cop was setting up radar, she'd get a $20 ticket and her mother would kill her. But at least she'd be safe from the psychopath. Just as she was trying to pull herself together, the crazy guy pulled up alongside her. His passenger window was down. There was something ghostly about him. He was a bald man, probably in his 50s. His face was pale and his cheeks were sunken. A chill ran up her spine every time he looked her way. He kept pointing at something on the side of the car. Was she leaking gas? Or was he pointing at something inside the car? Either way, she wasn't going to fall for it. The moment she stopped, her life was over. Then he yelled something, his words broken through the wind and rain. All she could make out was one word, knife. Something about a knife. Was that his way of saying what he was going to do to her? Maybe he wanted to distract her so she'd wreck. That's exactly what was going to happen at her speed. His words were creepy. She didn't want to hear them anymore. That's when she decided to roll up her window. The driver's side was getting soaked. Half her shirt was wet too. Just as she was rolling up the window, she glanced up to see a truck broke down in the middle of the road. Its hazard lights were on, but no one was inside. She was going 65 miles per hour and couldn't avoid a collision. This gave her only a fraction of a second to react. She slammed on the brakes, put her arms over her face and head. Then she ducked down. The tires squealed on the wet pavement. The crash echoed throughout the hills. And everything was silent after that. Thanks to her safety belt, she survived the crash with only a few minor scratches. Unfortunately, her passenger did not. A scraggly drunken man flew through the windshield and lay dead on the hood of the car with a long, sharp knife stuck in his chest. That's what the driver was doing. He was trying to warn her of the deranged lunatic in her back seat. The man was there the whole time. Police told Amanda the man with the knife, James Bonner, was an escaped prisoner. He'd been 10 years into a life sentence for murder. His method of killing was in the back seat of the car. Usually he'd kill the driver first, then drive off with the stolen merchandise. Police assumed he had been drinking and passed out, then woke up while Amanda was driving. When she gave police a description of the van and the driver, they said it couldn't have been him. It was him. I swear it, Amanda said. He was killed in a head-on collision less than a year ago, the police officer said. Amanda never saw the driver or the van ever again after that night.